The oil was still warm when I found it. There I was, flat on my back in my driveway at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, wrestling with a stubborn drain plug, when my flashlight caught something that didn't belong. A small black box, about the size of a matchbook, magnetic mounted to my truck's frame like a metallic tick. A GPS tracker. I stared at that little bastard for a full minute, rain starting to drizzle through the maple leaves above me. My first thought was carjackers. My second was repo men. My third was the truth, and it hit me like a sledgehammer to the gut. Marissa, my loving wife of 18 years, had been tracking me like a damn criminal. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I pulled myself out from under the Ford, wiping greasy hands on my jeans. The house glowed warm and yellow through the kitchen window, where my devoted spouse was probably washing dishes and planning tomorrow's real estate showings, or texting her boyfriend. Hard to tell these days. See, I'm not stupid. Slow maybe, trusting definitely, but not stupid. I'd noticed the signs over the past 6 months, the late meetings that ran until midnight, the new underwear that never made it into our bedroom rotation, the way she'd started pronouncing my name like it tasted bad. Nathan, did you remember to pick up milk? Nathan, the garbage disposal is making that noise again. Nathan, I'll be working late. Don't wait up. Always Nathan now. Never Nate. Like we were business associates instead of people who'd shared a bed for nearly 2 decades. I walked around to the kitchen window and peered inside. There she was, Marissa Chen Miller, all 5'6" of her, loading our dishwasher with the efficient movements of someone who had places to be. Her black hair was pulled back in that sleek ponytail she wore to impress clients. At 42, she still looked good enough to turn heads at the grocery store. Good enough to catch the attention of whatever piece of garbage was helping her betray our marriage. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, and I watched her face change. The polite mask she wore around me these days melted away, replaced by something softer, hungrier. She picked up the phone and smiled at whatever message had just arrived. That smile. Christ, I hadn't seen that smile directed at me in over a year. She started typing a response, her thumbs flying over the screen with teenage enthusiasm. I couldn't see what she was writing, but I could see her expression. She looked like a woman in love. Just not with her husband. I backed away from the window and returned to my truck, staring at the tracker in my palm. Professional grade, the kind private investigators used, the kind that cost real money and required real planning. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment paranoia purchase. This was premeditation. But why track me? What was she afraid I'd discover? Or maybe the better question was, what was she trying to hide? I thought about the nights she'd claimed to be showing houses to out-of-town buyers, the weekend conferences that seemed to multiply like rabbits, the way she'd started doing her own laundry, keeping her phone face down at dinner, taking calls in the garage. My wife was having an affair. The tracker was her insurance policy, making sure I stayed predictably at work, at home, or at Murphy's boxing gym while she played house with someone else. The rain picked up, fat drops spattering against my windshield. I looked at our house, my house, since I'd been making the mortgage payments for the past 18 years, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not heartbreak, exactly. More like the feeling you get when you realize you've been playing poker with someone who's been looking at your cards the whole time. I pocketed the tracker and headed inside. Marissa was wiping down the counters when I walked through the kitchen, oil stains on my shirt and revenge starting to percolate in my brain. "How's the truck?" she asked without looking up. "Running smooth as silk," I said. "Found something interesting under there, though." She glanced at me, and for just a second I saw fear flicker across her face. "Oh? What's that?" I pulled the tracker from my pocket and set it on the counter between us. "Care to explain this, honey?" The dish rag fell from her fingers. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. For someone who made her living talking people into buying overpriced houses, she suddenly seemed at a loss for words. Nathan, I can explain. I'm sure you can. You always were creative. She straightened, shifting into damage control mode. I was worried about you. You've been working such long hours, driving to job sites in bad neighborhoods. I thought if something happened, you thought you'd track me like an intimacy offender. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Marissa? She opened her mouth to respond, but her phone buzzed again. Both our eyes went to it. The screen lit up with a message preview. Baby, can't wait for tomorrow night. The usual place? The sender was listed as D. We stared at that phone like it was a live grenade, the kitchen filled with the kind of silence that precedes explosions. Nathan, she whispered. D? I picked up her phone. She lunged for it, but I was quicker. Who's D, Marissa? Give me that! I held it over my head, scrolling through messages with my free hand while she clawed at my arm. What I saw made my stomach turn. Months of messages, photos I definitely didn't take, plans for romantic getaways I definitely wasn't invited to, and videos. Jesus Christ, there were videos. You sick witch, I said, setting the phone down carefully before I threw it through the window. How long? She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly looking smaller. Nathan, please let me explain. How long, Marissa? 8 months. 8 months, while I'd been working 60-hour weeks to pay for her new car, her gym membership, her weekend shopping trips with the girls. While I'd been lying awake at night wondering why she didn't want to touch me anymore, she'd been sending naked pictures to some asshole named D. Who is he? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Dylan Kowalski. He works in tech. We met at an open house. Dylan. Of course it was a Dylan. Probably had a man bun and drove a Tesla and used words like disruption in casual conversation. Are you leaving me for him? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I nodded slowly, feeling strangely calm. Well, this has been educational. I picked up the tracker and headed for the door. Where are you going? She called after me. Out. Don't wait up. Nathan, we need to talk about this. I paused in the doorway, looking back at the woman I'd loved since she was 24 years old. No, Marissa, we really don't. I drove to Murphy's boxing gym because it was the only place in town that stayed open past midnight and didn't ask questions. Ricky Murphy, the owner, was cleaning equipment when I walked in, tracker still clutched in my fist. Nate, what are you doing here so late? I held up the tracker. My wife's been keeping tabs on me. Ricky whistled low. He was an ex-cop, 55 years old and built like a fire hydrant. He'd seen enough domestic drama to fill a library. Cheating? 8 months worth. Shit, brother, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry yet. I smiled, and it felt like broken glass. Be sorry for them. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into the Riverside Motel, a glorified flop house on the edge of town that rented rooms by the hour and didn't care if you paid cash. The irony wasn't lost on me. According to her text messages, this was where Marissa had been meeting Dylan every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 3 months. The desk clerk was a kid with neck tattoos and dead eyes who barely looked up when I slid $40 across the counter. How long? Just tonight. He handed me a key attached to a plastic diamond. Room 12. Checkouts at 11. Room 12 smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. The carpet was the color of dried blood, and the bedspread looked like it had witnessed more bodily fluids than a hospital gurney. I sat on the edge of the bed and turned Marissa's tracker over in my hands. Professional grade, like I'd thought. Magnetic mount, real-time GPS, probably cost $300. The kind of money you don't spend on a whim. This was planning, premeditation. While I'd been trusting her, she'd been treating me like a criminal under surveillance. I thought about the look on her face when she'd seen that text from Dylan. Pure joy. The kind of expression I used to inspire, back when we were young and stupid and thought love was enough to build a life on. My phone rang. Marissa. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to her message. Nathan, please come home. We need to talk about this like adults. I know you're hurt, but we can work through this. Please. Work through this. Like her 8-month affair was a minor scheduling conflict we could resolve with better communication. I deleted the message and called Ricky. Nate, everything okay? I need a favor. Name it. You still got contacts in the private investigation business? A few. Why? I want to know everything about Dylan Kowalski. Where he works, where he lives, what he drives, where he shops, who he banks with. Everything. That's gonna cost. I don't care. This is about more than just catching them, isn't it? I looked around the motel room, imagining my wife naked on this same bed with another man. Yeah, Ricky, it's about a lot more than that. The next morning, I went home to shower and change clothes. Marissa was waiting in the kitchen, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Her eyes were red-rimmed and puffy. Nathan, thank God. I was so worried. Were you? I poured myself coffee from the pot she'd made. Worried enough to check my location on your phone? She flinched. I deserve that. You deserve a lot of things, Marissa. Most of them aren't legal. Can we please sit down and talk about this? Like rational adults? Sure. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals together, planned our future, discussed our dreams. Talk. She sat across from me, hands folded like she was praying. Maybe she was. It wasn't supposed to happen, she began. Dylan and I, we were just friends at first. He was looking for a house and I was showing him properties. We'd grab coffee afterward, talk about real estate, about life. It was innocent. When did it stop being innocent? I don't know. Gradually, I guess. He made me feel alive again, like I mattered. You matter to me. Do I? Her voice cracked. When's the last time you really looked at me, Nathan? When's the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about bills or chores or whose turn it is to take out the garbage? I wanted to argue, but she wasn't wrong. Somewhere along the way, we'd stopped being lovers and started being roommates. The question was, did that justify 8 months of lies? So instead of talking to me about it, you decided to fuck someone else. It's not just about intimacy. No? What's it about then? He sees me. Really sees me. When I'm with Dylan, I feel like the woman I used to be before I became just this. She gestured at herself dismissively. And what am I in this scenario? The boring husband who pays the bills while you rediscover yourself with tech bro Dylan? That's not fair. Fair. I laughed, and it came out harsher than I intended. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been having this conversation 8 months ago, before you started tracking me like a criminal. Fair would have been marriage counseling, or separation, or any of a dozen other options that didn't involve you sending naked videos to another man. She started crying then, big messy sobs that might have moved me yesterday. Today they just sounded like manipulation. I'm sorry, she gasped. I'm so sorry, Nathan. I never meant for it to go this far. How far were you planning to go? She didn't answer. Are you in love with him? I don't know. That's a yes. It's complicated. It's really not. I stood up, suddenly exhausted. You made your choice, Marissa. Now I get to make mine. I left her crying at the kitchen table and drove to work. I run a small construction company, Miller Construction, that specializes in home renovations. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps me busy. Most days I love the work. There's something satisfying about taking something broken and making it whole again. Today I couldn't concentrate. Every nail I hammered, every board I cut, every wire I ran, I was thinking about Marissa and Dylan. About 8 months of lies, About the tracker she'd used to monitor my movements while she was betraying everything we'd built together. My phone buzzed with a text from Ricky. Got your info. Dylan Kowalski, 34, works for TechFlow Solutions downtown, drives a white Tesla Model 3, lives in the Riverside Apartments, Unit 4B, credit score 720, no criminal record, no wife or kids, clean as a whistle. Clean as a whistle. Unlike my wife, who was apparently dirtier than I'd imagined. I spent the rest of the day planning. By the time I got home, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Marissa was in the living room, curled up on the couch with a glass of wine and red eyes. She looked up hopefully when I walked in. Nathan, are you ready to talk? Actually, I think I need some space to process all this. Space? I'm going to visit my brother in Portland for a few days. Clear my head, figure out what I want to do next. Relief flooded her face. That might be good. For both of us. Yeah, I think so too. What I didn't tell her was that I wasn't going to Portland. What I also didn't tell her was that her precious tracker was about to take a little trip of its own. That night, while Marissa slept, I crept out to my truck and carefully reattached the tracker to its original hiding spot. Then I drove to the truck stop on Highway 94, where I'd arranged to meet a long-haul driver named Eddie, who owed me a favor from a job I'd done on his house last year. You sure about this, Nate? Eddie asked as I transferred the tracker to his rig. This seems like some serious marriage drama. Just keep it moving for the next 3 days, I said, handing him $200 cash. I don't care where you go, as long as it's far from here. Your funeral, brother. Eddie pulled out of the truck stop at 2 a.m., heading north toward Canada with my tracker attached to his trailer. Meanwhile, I checked into a different motel on the other side of town and settled in to watch the show. I didn't have to wait long. At 6 a.m., my phone started ringing. Marissa. Nathan? Nathan, where are you? On the road. Why? Your GPS shows you're in Wisconsin. I thought you were going to Portland. GPS? I mean, you mean the tracker you put on my truck? Silence. Marissa, are you tracking me right now? Nathan, I can explain. I'm sure you can. But right now, I'm more interested in why you care where I am. Shouldn't you be planning your next date with Dylan? I hung up and turned off my phone. Let her sweat for a while. By noon, according to Eddie's texts, the tracker showed my truck somewhere in northern Minnesota. By evening, it would be in Canada. I could only imagine the conversations Marissa was having with her boyfriend. Where the hell is your husband? I don't know. The GPS says he's in Canada. Canada? What's he doing in Canada? I have no idea. I spent the day at a local diner, drinking coffee and reading the paper like a man without a care in the world. Around 3 p.m. I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls from Marissa, 12 voicemails, and one very interesting text from a number I didn't recognize. Your wife is freaking out. She thinks you found out about us and ran away to Canada. This is Dylan, by the way. We should probably talk. Dylan, the man himself. I texted back. Nothing to talk about. Enjoy my sloppy seconds. His response came immediately. Look, I know you're pissed, but this doesn't have to get ugly. Marissa and I are in love. We're going to be together whether you like it or not. The question is whether we do this the easy way or the hard way. The easy way or the hard way. Like I was some obstacle to be managed rather than a human being whose life they'd destroyed. I typed back, you want to know which way we're doing this? Check your car. Then I drove to the TechFlow Solutions parking garage. Dylan's Tesla was easy to spot. White, pristine, probably cost more than I made in 6 months. I walked around it slowly, admiring the sleek lines and custom rims. It was a beautiful car. A shame what was about to happen to it. I'd brought spray paint, bright red, the kind that doesn't come off easy. On the driver's side, I wrote homewrecker in letters 3 feet tall. On the passenger side, adulterer. On the hood, Marissa's toy. But I wasn't done. I'd also brought a valve stem tool, a little device that removes the cores from tire valves, letting all the air out without actually damaging anything. All 4 tires flat as pancakes. Finally, I took out the tracker I'd bought that morning, a cheap one from the electronics store, and stuck it under his rear bumper. If Marissa wanted to track someone, she could track her boyfriend for a change. I was walking back to my truck when Dylan appeared, jogging across the parking garage with his phone pressed to his ear. I don't know what he's planning, Marissa, but I don't like it. He just texted me something about checking my car, and now I'm... Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck me. He stopped dead when he saw his Tesla. The phone slipped from his fingers and clattered on the concrete. Problem? I asked. He spun around, and I got my first good look at Marissa's boyfriend. Tall, thin, with the kind of carefully sculpted stubble that probably took him 20 minutes every morning. Expensive clothes, expensive watch, expensive everything. He looked like the kind of guy who used words like synergy and paradigm shift in casual conversation. You're Nathan. And you're the piece of shit who's been fucking my wife. Look, man, I know this is awkward. Awkward? I laughed. Awkward is running into your ex at the grocery store. This is something else entirely. We can work this out like civilized people. Can we? Because from where I'm standing, you've been anything but civilized. 8 months, Dylan. 8 months you've been screwing my wife behind my back. 8 months of lies and sneaking around and treating me like some kind of fool. I never meant for it to happen. But it did happen. And now you're going to deal with the consequences. He glanced at his ruined car, then back at me. You can't just destroy people's property because you're upset. Upset? I stepped closer, and he backed away. I'm not upset, Dylan. Upset is what you feel when your team loses the Super Bowl. What I am is something much more dangerous. What do you want? I want you to understand something. This isn't over. This is just the beginning. You wanted to play games with my marriage? Fine. Let's play games. But I've got 18 years of investment in this relationship, and you've got 8 months. Guess who's got more to lose? I walked away, leaving him standing next to his vandalized Tesla with his mouth hanging open. My phone was ringing when I got back to my truck. Marissa again. Nathan, where are you? Dylan said you were at his work, that you damaged his car. Please tell me that's not true. It's true. Nathan, you can't do things like that. You could be arrested. For what? Spray paint washes off. Air goes back in tires. No permanent damage. That's not the point. What is the point, Marissa? That I should just roll over and let you two walk all over me? That I should make this easy for you? I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me. You hurt me every day for 8 months. And now it's my turn. I hung up and drove home, feeling better than I had in months. The next morning, I woke up to find Marissa sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a look of grim determination. She'd clearly been waiting for me. We need to establish some ground rules, she said without preamble. Ground rules? If we're going to get through this, we need to behave like adults. No more vandalism. No more threatening Dylan. No more games. I poured myself coffee and sat down across from her. You want to talk about games? Let's talk about the game where you tracked my every movement while you were cheating on me. Let's talk about the game where you lied to my face for 8 months. Let's talk about the game where you sent naked videos to another man in our bed. That's different. How is that different? I never tried to hurt you deliberately. I was trying to protect you. Protect me from what? From this. From the pain you're feeling right now. I stared at her, genuinely amazed. You were protecting me by cheating on me? I was trying to figure out what I wanted before I did something that would hurt both of us. Mission accomplished. She sighed, suddenly looking older than her 42 years. Nathan, I know you're angry. You have every right to be angry. But destroying Dylan's car isn't going to fix our marriage. I'm not trying to fix our marriage, Marissa. I'm trying to end it. What? You heard me. I want a divorce. The color drained from her face. Nathan, No. We can work through this. Couples survive affairs all the time. We can go to counseling. We can what? Pretend the last 8 months didn't happen? Pretend I didn't see those videos? Pretend you didn't track me like a criminal while you were betraying everything we built together? It doesn't have to be the end. It already is the end. You ended it the first time you let Dylan touch you. I'm just making it official. She started crying again, but this time it felt different, more desperate. Please don't do this. I love you. No, you don't. You love the security I provide. You love having someone to pay the bills while you play house with your boyfriend. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have been able to do what you did. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time you looked at me the way you looked at that text from Dylan? When's the last time you smiled at me like you smile at him? She didn't have an answer for that. I'm filing for divorce on Monday, I said. You can make this easy, or you can make it hard, but it's happening either way. What about our friends? What about our life together? What friends, Marissa? The ones who've been watching you cheat on me and didn't say anything? The ones who probably think I'm some pathetic cuckold who doesn't know what's going on in his own marriage? They don't think that, don't they? That afternoon, I found out exactly what our friends thought. I was at Murphy's gym, working out my frustrations on a heavy bag, when Tom Bradley walked in. Tom had been my best friend since high school. He was also Marissa's boss at the real estate agency. Nate, can we talk? I stopped punching the bag and turned to face him. Tom looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot like a kid who'd been caught stealing candy. What's up, Tom? I heard about the situation with Marissa and Dylan. What situation? Come on, man. Don't make this harder than it has to be. How long have you known? He sighed. A few months. How many months, Tom? Since the beginning. I'm sorry, Nate. I wanted to tell you, but Marissa begged me not to. She said she was going to end it, that it was just a phase. A phase that lasted 8 months. I know how this looks. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my best friend has been covering for my cheating wife while I've been walking around like an idiot. It wasn't like that. What was it like? Tom ran a hand through his thinning hair. Look, Marissa's a good agent. One of my best. I couldn't afford to lose her over some personal drama. Personal drama? You know what I mean. No, Tom, I don't know what you mean. Explain it to me. Your marriage has been rocky for years. Everyone could see it. Marissa was unhappy, you were oblivious, and something like this was bound to happen eventually. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Everyone could see it? Come on, Nate. You guys barely talked to each other at parties. You slept in separate bedrooms half the time. Marissa was basically a single woman already. So, that made it okay for her to cheat? I'm not saying it was okay. I'm saying it was inevitable. And you decided not to tell me because I didn't want to be the one to blow up your marriage over something that might have blown over on its own. Blown over? Affairs end, Nate. Most of them burn out after a few months. I thought if I just waited it out. You thought you'd let me keep making a fool of myself while my wife screwed another man. That's not what I thought. That's exactly what you thought. I turned away from him and started unwrapping my hands. The conversation was over. Nate, come on, don't be like this. Be like what, Tom? Bitter. This doesn't have to ruin our friendship. Our friendship? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. What friendship? Friends don't let friends walk around with their pants down while their wives are cheating. Friends don't choose real estate commissions over loyalty. Friends don't stand by and watch while their buddies get humiliated. I was trying to protect you. By lying to me for 8 months. By not being the messenger who got shot. I finished unwrapping my hands and turned to face him. Well, congratulations, Tom. You didn't get shot, but you did lose a friend. Nate, We're done here. I walked out of the gym, leaving Tom standing there with his mouth open. But Tom wasn't the only friend who'd known about Marissa's affair. Over the next few days, I discovered that pretty much everyone in our social circle had been aware of what was going on. Our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, had seen Dylan's car in our driveway when I was at work. Jim and Susan Morrison had spotted Marissa and Dylan together at a restaurant 2 towns over. Even my own brother had heard rumors but decided not to get involved. 18 years of friendship, and not one of them had the balls to tell me the truth. By Friday, I was done with all of them. That's when I decided to throw a party. I sent out invitations to everyone in our social circle. Tom and his wife, the Morrisons, the Pattersons, even Marissa's sister Jessica and her husband. The invitation was simple. Backyard barbecue at the Millers, Saturday at 6 p.m. Come celebrate new beginnings. Marissa was suspicious when she saw me setting up tables and chairs in the backyard. What's all this for? I invited some friends over, thought it was time to clear the air. Nathan, what are you planning? Just a little honesty, Marissa. Nothing you can't handle. She looked nervous, but she didn't try to stop me. Maybe she thought I was finally ready to play nice. Maybe she thought I was going to announce our reconciliation. She was wrong. The guests started arriving at 6 o'clock sharp. Tom and his wife Linda came first, followed by the Morrisons and the Pattersons. Jessica and her husband Mike showed up fashionably late, as usual. By 6:30, my backyard was full of people who'd spent the last 8 months watching my marriage fall apart and saying nothing. I waited until everyone had a drink in their hand before I made my announcement. Thanks for coming, everyone, I said, raising my beer bottle. I know you're all wondering why I called this little gathering. Nervous laughter from the crowd. Marissa was standing by the back door, looking like she wanted to run. See, I recently discovered something interesting about my marriage, something I thought you all should know. Nathan, Marissa's voice was barely a whisper. I discovered that my wife has been having an affair for the past 8 months with a guy named Dylan Kowalski, and the really interesting part is that most of you already knew about it. The backyard went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Tom, you knew because Marissa works for you. Jim and Susan, you saw them together at Romano's. Mrs. Patterson, you saw his car in my driveway. Jessica, you've been covering for your sister since day one. I looked around at their faces, guilty, embarrassed, caught. So here's what I want to know. What kind of friends watch someone get humiliated and say nothing? What kind of people choose comfort over honesty? What kind of cowards let a man walk around like an idiot while his wife is sending naked videos to another man? Nathan, stop, Marissa pleaded. Stop what? Telling the truth? Isn't that what friends are supposed to do? Tell each other the truth? Tom stepped forward. Nate, this isn't the way to handle this. How should I handle it, Tom? The way you handled it. By keeping my mouth shut and pretending everything's fine? We were trying to protect you. By lying to me? By not getting involved in something that wasn't our business. My marriage wasn't your business? My wife cheating on me wasn't your business? What the hell is friendship supposed to mean then? Linda Bradley started crying. Susan Morrison was staring at her shoes. Mrs. Patterson looked like she wanted to disappear into the ground. You all made a choice, I continued. You chose Marissa's comfort over my dignity. You chose avoiding drama over basic human decency. You chose to let me be the fool who didn't know what everyone else knew. We didn't mean for it to happen like this, Jessica said. How did you mean for it to happen? Did you think I'd never find out? Did you think Marissa would just quietly divorce me and run off with Dylan, and I'd never figure out that you all knew the whole time? We thought it would end, Tom said. Most affairs do. And if it didn't end? If I'd spent the next 5 years paying for Marissa's dates with Dylan while you all watched and said nothing? No one had an answer for that. Well, here's some news for all of you, I said. I'm divorcing Marissa. I'm selling this house. And I'm done with every single one of you. You want to know what loyalty looks like? You want to know what friendship means? Find some other sucker to practice on. I set my beer bottle on the table and walked toward the house. "Nathan, wait!" Marissa called after me. "Enjoy the party," I said without turning around. "You all deserve each other." I went inside and locked the door, leaving them all standing in my backyard with their guilt and their excuses and their uncomfortable silence. Through the kitchen window, I watched them leave one by one. Tom and Linda first, then the Morrisons, then the rest. Within 20 minutes, the backyard was empty except for Marissa, who stood alone by the picnic table looking like her world had just collapsed. Good. It was about time. Sunday morning, I woke up to find Marissa gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway, her side of the bed hadn't been slept in, and there was a note on the kitchen counter. "Gone to think. Need space. Don't follow me." I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. If she wanted space, I'd give her space. All the space in the world. I spent the morning calling divorce lawyers. By noon, I'd retained Sarah Chen from Chen & Associates, no relation to Marissa, despite the name. Sarah was a shark in a business suit who specialized in high-conflict divorces. She was also expensive, but I figured it was worth it to have someone in my corner who wouldn't be swayed by Marissa's tears or Dylan's money. "I'll need documentation of the affair," Sarah told me during our phone consultation. "Text messages, photos, financial records showing unexplained expenses. The more evidence you have, the stronger your position." "I've got text messages, lots of them." "Good. What about assets?" "The house is in both our names, but I've been making the payments. We have joint savings and checking accounts. She's got her real estate business. I've got my construction company." "Any kids?" "No." "That simplifies things. Michigan is a no-fault state, so the affair won't affect the divorce itself, but it might influence asset division if we can show she spent marital funds on her boyfriend." "She did. Expensive restaurants, hotel rooms, gifts. I can prove it." "Excellent. I'll draw up the papers and have them ready by Tuesday." Tuesday. In 2 days, I'd officially be done with Marissa Miller. The thought should have made me sad. Instead, it made me feel free. Monday morning, Marissa still wasn't home. I went to work as usual, but I couldn't concentrate. Every time my phone rang, I expected it to be her, calling to beg forgiveness or threaten me or try some new manipulation. But the calls never came. Around lunchtime, Ricky showed up at the job site. "Heard about the party," he said. Word traveled fast in a small town. "Who told you?" "Tom Bradley. He came by the gym this morning looking like someone had kicked his dog. Said you pretty much burned every bridge in town." "Good bridges to burn." "Maybe, but you might want to be careful. Desperate people do stupid things." "What do you mean?" "I mean your wife and her boyfriend might not take this lying down, especially if they've got something to lose." "Like what?" "I don't know, but people who cheat usually have other secrets, and people with secrets don't like being backed into corners." I thought about that for the rest of the day. What other secrets might Marissa have? What else had she been hiding while I was working 60-hour weeks and trusting her completely? That evening, I got my answer. I was at home, eating a frozen dinner and watching TV, when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Is this Nathan Miller?" "Who's asking?" "This is Detective Rodriguez with the Michigan State Police. We need to talk." My blood went cold. "About what?" "About some allegations that have been made against you. Can you come down to the station?" "What kind of allegations?" "I'd rather discuss this in person. Are you available tonight?" I looked around my empty house, at the life I'd built that was falling apart piece by piece. "Yeah, I'm available." The Michigan State Police Post was a modern brick building that looked more like a corporate office than a police station. Detective Rodriguez met me in the lobby, a tired-looking woman in her 40s with graying hair and suspicious eyes. "Mr. Miller, thanks for coming in. I'm Detective Rodriguez." "What's this about?" "Let's talk in my office." She led me down a hallway lined with motivational posters and community outreach flyers. Her office was small and cluttered, with a desk covered in case files and a wall full of commendations. Coffee? I'm fine. What allegations? She sat down behind her desk and opened a file folder. We received a complaint this morning alleging that you've been stalking and harassing your wife and her friend. Friend? Dylan Kowalski. He claims you've been following him, vandalizing his property and making threats. I almost laughed. I spray-painted his car. Once. That's hardly stalking. He also claims you've been tracking his movements using some kind of GPS device. The tracker. The one I'd put on his car after he and Marissa had been tracking me. Did he mention that he and my wife have been tracking me for months? He did mention some kind of marital dispute, but that doesn't give you the right to engage in criminal behavior. Criminal behavior? She pulled out a sheet of paper and read from it. Vandalism, stalking, harassment, criminal threatening. Mr. Kowalski is prepared to file formal charges if this behavior continues. What behavior? I haven't seen Dylan Kowalski since last week. But you have been tracking him, the same way he and my wife have been tracking me. Two wrongs don't make a right, Mr. Miller. I leaned back in my chair, suddenly understanding what was happening. This is about the party, isn't it? What party? The party where I told all our friends about my wife's affair. Dylan and Marissa are trying to shut me up. I don't know anything about a party. I'm just here to tell you that if you continue to harass Mr. Kowalski or your wife, you'll be arrested. Is that clear? Crystal. Good. Stay away from them, Mr. Miller. Find a lawyer, file for divorce, and handle this through the courts. Don't take the law into your own hands. I stood up to leave, then paused. Detective Rodriguez, did Dylan mention that he's been sleeping with my wife for 8 months? Did he mention the naked videos and the hotel receipts and the fact that they've been using GPS to track my movements? That's a civil matter, Mr. Miller, not a criminal one. Right. So cheating and lying and tracking someone without their consent is civil, but spray painting a car is criminal? That's correct. Good to know where the law stands. I walked out of the police station feeling like I'd just been sucker punched. Somehow, Marissa and Dylan had managed to turn me into the bad guy. I was the one being investigated, while they were the victims. But if they wanted to play hardball, I could play hardball too. The next morning, I drove to Sarah Chen's office and told her about my conversation with Detective Rodriguez. They're trying to intimidate you, she said. It's a common tactic in contentious divorces. Make the other party look unstable, violent, untrustworthy. Is it working? Not if you're smart about it. From now on, you document everything, every interaction, every phone call, every text message. You don't go anywhere near Dylan Kowalski or your wife unless it's through official channels. You let me handle all communication. What about the tracking device? Remove it immediately, and don't do anything else that could be construed as harassment or stalking. So I just let them win? You let the law work. Trust me, Mr. Miller. The truth has a way of coming out in divorce proceedings. Your wife's affair, the financial improprieties, the fact that they were tracking you, it'll all come to light, but only if you don't give them ammunition to use against you. I left Sarah's office feeling frustrated but determined. If Marissa and Dylan wanted to play games, fine. But I'd been playing games a lot longer than they had. That afternoon, I went back to the job site and threw myself into work. Physical labor had always been my therapy, the satisfaction of building something with my own hands, of taking raw materials and turning them into something useful and beautiful. I was installing kitchen cabinets in a client's house when my phone rang. Marissa. Nathan, we need to talk. Talk to my lawyer. Please, this is important. Against my better judgment, I answered. What do you want, Marissa? I want to come home. This is your home. I'm the one who's leaving. You don't have to leave. We can work this out. Work what out? Your 8-month affair? The fact that you tracked me like a criminal? The fact that you and Dylan are now trying to have me arrested? I didn't know Dylan was going to call the police. Bullshit. It's true. He did that on his own. And you're okay with it? Silence. That's what I thought. You're okay with your boyfriend trying to have your husband arrested, but you want to work things out. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You made your choice, Marissa. Now live with it. I hung up and went back to work, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Marissa sounded different, scared, maybe, or desperate, not like someone who was winning. That evening, I found out why. I was at Murphy's gym, working out my frustrations on the heavy bag, when Ricky approached me with a strange look on his face. "Nate, you need to see this." He handed me his phone, which was open to a local news website. The headline made my blood freeze. Local real estate agent under investigation for fraud. The article was short but damning. The Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs was investigating Marissa Miller of Bradley Real Estate for alleged fraudulent practices, including inflating property values, misrepresenting property conditions, and pocketing earnest money deposits. If convicted, she could face up to 5 years in prison and the loss of her real estate license. "Holy shit," I whispered. "There's more," Ricky said. He scrolled down to a second article. TechFlow Solutions employee arrested for embezzlement. Dylan Kowalski had been arrested that morning for allegedly stealing over $200,000 from his employer's client accounts. He was being held on $50,000 bond pending arraignment. I stared at the phone screen, trying to process what I was reading. My cheating wife was under investigation for fraud. Her boyfriend was under arrest for embezzlement. The two people who'd been trying to destroy my life were apparently criminals. When did this happen? The articles were posted this afternoon, but according to my contact at the state police, they've been investigating both of them for months. Months? Since before you found out about the affair. Apparently someone tipped them off about some suspicious real estate transactions and some missing money at TechFlow. Who? Ricky grinned. Anonymous tip. Could have been anyone. I looked at him suspiciously. Ricky. What? I told you I had contacts in the investigation business. Maybe one of them noticed some irregularities while they were looking into Dylan's background. Maybe they felt it was their civic duty to report suspicious activity. You bastard. Hey, I didn't plant evidence or make anything up. I just pointed the authorities towards some information that was already there. If your wife and her boyfriend were clean, they'd have nothing to worry about. I handed him back his phone, feeling like the world had just tilted on its axis. So that's why Marissa wants to come home. She needs an alibi, someone to vouch for her character. And Dylan's trying to get you arrested so you can't testify against them if this goes to trial. Can I testify against them? You're married to one of them. Spousal privilege might apply, but if you're divorced... Ricky shrugged. If I'm divorced, I can testify. Exactly. I thought about Marissa's phone call, her desperate tone, her sudden desire to work things out. She wasn't trying to save our marriage. She was trying to save her ass. What happens now? Now you stay as far away from both of them as possible. Let the law handle the criminal stuff. Let your lawyer handle the divorce, and let karma handle the rest. And if they try to drag me into it, then you tell the truth, the whole truth, about the affair, about the tracking, about everything. Let the chips fall where they may. I left the gym that night feeling like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in months, I wasn't the one in trouble. I wasn't the one with secrets to hide. I wasn't the one facing criminal charges or professional ruin. I was just a guy whose wife had cheated on him. And compared to fraud and embezzlement, that seemed almost quaint. But the story wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The next morning, I woke up to find my front door covered in spray paint. Bright red letters spelled out snitch across the white wood, with asshole added in smaller letters underneath. My truck had been keyed from bumper to bumper, and someone had slashed all 4 tires. I stood in my driveway in my bathrobe, looking at the damage and feeling strangely calm. This was escalation, This was desperation. This was exactly what I'd been waiting for. I called the police first, then my insurance company, then Sarah Chen. Within an hour, my house was crawling with investigators, photographers, and adjusters. Detective Rodriguez showed up around 9 a.m., looking less sympathetic than she had during our previous meeting. Any idea who might have done this, Mr. Miller? I can think of 2 people. Based on what? I showed her the news articles about Marissa and Dylan. My wife and her boyfriend are facing serious criminal charges. Yesterday, my wife called begging me to come home and work things out. Today my property gets vandalized. You do the math. That's pretty circumstantial. Maybe, but I've got security cameras. That was a lie. I didn't have security cameras, but I was betting that whoever had done this didn't know that. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. You have footage? I might. I'll need to check the system, see what it picked up. We'll need copies of any relevant footage. Of course. She walked around my truck, taking notes. This is pretty extensive damage. Probably $1,500 in repairs, maybe more. Sounds about right. If we can prove who did this, it's felony vandalism, especially combined with the previous harassment complaints. Previous complaints? The ones Mr. Kowalski filed against you. I almost laughed. Detective, Dylan Kowalski was arrested yesterday for embezzlement. My wife is under investigation for fraud. And I'm the one you're worried about? I'm worried about everyone, Mr. Miller. Crime tends to escalate in situations like this. You're right. It does. After the police left, I drove to the hardware store and bought actual security cameras. If there was going to be a next time, I wanted to be ready. But first, I had a phone call to make. Marissa? It's me. Nathan, thank God. I've been trying to reach you all morning. I've been busy. Someone vandalized my house and truck last night. Silence. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Of course not. Why would I vandalize my own house? Because it's not your house anymore. Because you're facing fraud charges and you need me to disappear so I can't testify against you. I would never... Cut the shit, Marissa. I know about the investigation. I know about Dylan's arrest. I know you're both in deep trouble and you're looking for someone to blame. Nathan, please. We need to talk. Face to face. No, we don't. Yes, we do. There are things you don't understand. Things about Dylan, about the money, about everything. What things? I can't talk about it over the phone. Meet me somewhere. Anywhere. Just give me 1 hour to explain. I thought about it. Part of me was curious to hear what kind of story she'd concocted. Part of me wanted to see her squirm. And part of me, the part that had loved her for 18 years, wanted to give her one last chance to tell the truth. 1 hour, I said. Murphy's gym, public place, plenty of witnesses. Thank you. And Marissa? If you're planning some kind of setup, some way to make me look bad or get me arrested, remember that I've got nothing left to lose. You and Dylan took everything that mattered to me. That makes me dangerous. I'm not planning anything. I just want to talk. We met at Murphy's at 7 p.m. Marissa looked terrible, pale, thin, with dark circles under her eyes. She'd aged 5 years in the past week. You look like hell, I said. I feel like hell. We sat at a corner table, away from the other gym members but still visible to anyone who cared to look. Ricky was behind the front desk, keeping an eye on things. Talk, I said. It's not what you think. What do I think? That Dylan and I planned this, that we're criminals who deserve whatever's happening to us. Aren't you? I didn't know about the embezzlement. I swear to God, Nathan, I had no idea Dylan was stealing money. What about the fraud charges? She looked down at her hands. That's more complicated. Complicated how? Some of the transactions they're investigating. Dylan was involved. He had clients who needed to buy houses quickly without a lot of paperwork or background checks. He said they were tech executives, people with complicated financial situations. Money laundering. I didn't know that's what it was. I thought I was just helping people buy houses. By inflating appraisals? By misrepresenting property conditions? Dylan said it was standard practice in high-end real estate. He said everyone did it. I stared at her, amazed. You're 42 years old, Marissa. You've been in real estate for 15 years. Don't tell me you didn't know you were breaking the law. I knew it was questionable. But Dylan said, Dylan told you. Dylan convinced you. I shook my head. Jesus Christ, Marissa. You threw away our marriage for a criminal who used you as his personal money laundering operation. It wasn't like that. What was it like? He said he loved me. He said we were going to be together, that he was going to take care of me. He made me feel what? Special, important, like I mattered. You did matter. To me. Did I? When's the last time you told me I was beautiful? When's the last time you surprised me with flowers or took me out to dinner or made me feel like anything other than a roommate who helped pay the bills? When's the last time you gave me a chance to? What do you mean? I mean you'd already checked out of our marriage before Dylan came along. You'd already decided I was boring and predictable and not worth the effort. Dylan didn't steal you from me, Marissa. You were already gone. She started crying then, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Nathan. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. And now you're facing 5 years in prison while your boyfriend sits in a jail cell waiting for his arraignment. They want me to testify against him, the prosecutors. They say if I cooperate, they'll reduce the charges. Are you going to do it? I don't know. He says if I testify, he'll tell them I was the mastermind, that I seduced him into the scheme. Did you? No. I told you, I didn't even know what we were doing was illegal. But you can't prove that. Not without looking like a naive idiot who let her boyfriend manipulate her into committing crimes. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. So what do you want from me? I want you to not divorce me. Not yet. Why? Because if we're still married, you can't be forced to testify against me. Spousal privilege. And why would I want to protect you? Because despite everything that's happened, we were married for 18 years. Because I'm the mother you never had children with, but I was your family. Because somewhere under all this anger and hurt, you still care about me. I looked at her. Really looked at her. For the first time in months. She was right about one thing. I did still care about her. Not the way I used to, not with the blind trust and devotion I'd felt for most of our marriage, but with the complicated love you feel for someone who's been part of your life for so long that they're woven into your DNA. If I don't divorce you, what happens to us? I don't know. Maybe after this is all over, we can try counseling. Maybe we can figure out how to be married to each other again. And if you go to prison? Then you'll have to decide if you want to wait for me. I thought about it. I thought about 18 years of marriage, about the good times we'd had before everything went to hell, about the woman I'd fallen in love with when she was 24, and I was 26, and we thought we could conquer the world together. Then I thought about 8 months of lies, about naked videos sent to another man, about GPS trackers and secret hotel meetings, and the look on her face when she'd read Dylan's text messages. No, I said. Nathan, no, Marissa. I'm not your get-out-of-jail-free card. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your safety net while you figure out whether you want to betray your criminal boyfriend or spend the next 5 years in prison. Please. You made your choice. You chose Dylan over me, lies over truth, crime over honesty. Now you get to live with the consequences. I stood up to leave. Nathan, wait. I turned back to her. What? I love you. I know you don't believe me. I know I've given you every reason not to believe me, but I do love you. I always have. No, Marissa. You love what I represented. Security, stability, someone to fall back on when your exciting life with Dylan turned out to be built on stolen money and fake real estate deals. That's not true, isn't it? If Dylan hadn't been arrested, if you weren't facing fraud charges, would you be here right now asking me to take you back? She didn't answer. That's what I thought. I walked out of Murphy's gym and drove home, where I spent the evening installing security cameras and changing the locks. If Marissa wanted to come home, she'd have to break in, and if she broke in, I'd have it all on video. The next morning, I called Sarah Chen and told her to proceed with the divorce. Are you sure, Mr. Miller? Given your wife's legal troubles, it might be advantageous to wait. I'm sure. The spousal privilege issue isn't my problem. If the prosecutors want my testimony, they can subpoena me after the divorce is final. That's a very principled position. It's the only position I can live with. 3 days later, Marissa was served with divorce papers. She called me that afternoon, crying and begging and threatening by turns. But I didn't answer. I'd said everything I had to say. A week after that, Dylan Kowalski was released on bail. His first stop was apparently my house, because I came home from work to find him sitting on my front porch. We need to talk, he said. No, we don't. Yes, we do. This thing with Marissa, with the charges, it's gotten out of hand. You think? I'm willing to make you a deal. I almost laughed. What kind of deal? I'll plead guilty to the embezzlement charges. I'll take full responsibility for everything. I'll even testify that Marissa didn't know what I was doing, that I manipulated her into helping me. In exchange for what? In exchange for you convincing her not to testify against me. Why would I do that? Because if she testifies, she'll have to admit to things that will destroy what's left of her life. Things about our relationship, about the money, about what she was willing to do for me. What things? Dylan smiled, and it was the ugliest expression I'd ever seen. Things you really don't want to know, Nathan. Trust me. Try me. The affair started before she met me, with Tom Bradley, your best friend. I have photos, videos, hotel receipts going back 2 years. Marissa didn't just cheat on you with me, she's been cheating on you with half the men in this town. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Tom, my best friend since high school, the man who'd claimed he was trying to protect me. You're lying. Am I? Ask Marissa. Ask Tom. Better yet, ask Tom's wife. I bet she'd be very interested to see the videos I have of her husband and your wife in that little motel room you're so familiar with. What do you want? I want you to convince Marissa to keep her mouth shut. I want you to tell her that if she testifies against me, I'll release everything I have about her other relationships. Every photo, every video, every dirty little secret. And if I don't? Then your wife goes down as the town whore, your best friend's marriage gets destroyed, and you get to be the laughingstock who didn't know his wife was screwing everyone but him. I stared at Dylan Kowalski, this pathetic criminal who thought he could blackmail me into helping him, and I felt something snap inside me. You know what, Dylan? Go ahead. Release everything. What? You heard me. Release the photos, the videos, all of it. Put it on the internet, send it to the newspapers, take out a billboard on the highway. I don't care anymore. You're bluffing. Am I? You think I have anything left to lose? My wife's a criminal. My best friend's a liar. My marriage is over. My social circle has disowned me, and everyone in town thinks I'm either a fool or a psychopath. I stepped closer to him, and he backed away. But here's the thing, Dylan. I'm not the one facing 5 years in prison. I'm not the one who's about to lose everything I've built. I'm not the one whose life is about to be destroyed by my own stupidity and greed. Nathan, you want to play games? Let's play games. But remember, I've got nothing left to lose, and you've got everything to lose. That makes me the dangerous one. I walked past him into my house and locked the door, leaving him standing on my porch with his threats and his blackmail and his desperate schemes. The next day, Dylan Kowalski was arrested again, this time for witness intimidation and extortion. Apparently, one of my new security cameras had picked up our entire conversation, and I'd been wearing a wire that Ricky had suggested I start carrying after the vandalism incident. 2 days after that, Marissa agreed to testify against Dylan in exchange for a reduced sentence. She got 2 years probation and the loss of her real estate license. Dylan got 5 years in federal prison. Tom Bradley's wife filed for divorce after the photos surfaced during the trial. Tom lost his real estate agency, his house, and his reputation. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in another state. As for me, I sold the house, paid off the debts, and started over. New town, new friends, new life. I kept the construction business because I'm good at building things. I'm also good at tearing things down when they're beyond repair. Some people might say I was too harsh, that I should have forgiven Marissa, given her a second chance, tried to save our marriage. But those people don't understand what it's like to discover that your entire life has been built on lies. I don't regret anything I did. Not the divorce, not the testimony, not the security cameras that caught Dylan trying to blackmail me. I especially don't regret walking away from people who thought loyalty was optional and friendship was conditional. These days, I sleep well at night. I don't check my phone obsessively, wondering who my wife is texting. I don't worry about GPS trackers or secret meetings or naked videos. I don't have to pretend that everything is fine when it's not. I'm 43 years old, divorced, and starting over. And for the first time in years, I'm exactly where I want to be. Some stories don't have happy endings. Some stories just have honest ones. This is mine.